What's up guys, Lifting here. This is my Bow Blade Vortex Occultist build guide. The build has so far taken down the Shaper. I've killed more than 100 Uber IZAROs, and you can probably kill Uber Terry too. I haven't tried, but if you know how to do that, I don't see why you couldn't do that. In this video I will go over some of the strengths and weaknesses for this build so you know what to expect if you decide to try it out for yourself. I will explain the different types of gear that the build utilizes for each purpose, so either overlap farming or killing Shaper and just, getting maximum damage. I will explain like the tree basics, skill tree basics. And finally, for you guys, make sure to check the description of the video. There will be build instructions there, including leveling skill trees and leveling instructions, things like that. But let's get into it. Let's start with what the weaknesses of this build are, so you are ready for it when it happens. This build deals incredibly well with physical damage or damage in general. However, when it comes to really spiky elemental damage, it doesn't have any specific way of mitigating this. And this goes for almost any build in Path of Exile. So it's not anything specific to this, but just keep in mind, if you're fighting Uber IZARO with conduits or essences that makes him deal tons of elemental damage, he can be a little dangerous. Other than that, it's no issue. And you can still kill him, you just have to, you can't face roll it as much. Another thing is that since they changed Blade Vortex to hit less frequently but harder per hit, there will be some situations where you run into a pack and you're kind of waiting for the Blade Vortex to deal the damage. It feels a little awkward. It's rare, but it happens sometimes, and because of that, the leech that you are expecting doesn't happen as soon as you wanted it to, so it can be a little dangerous sometimes in those rare occasions. And when it comes to leech, you shouldn't expect this to be like the old Pathfinder Vingtars setup, where you simply can leech through all damage. You'll be able to go through almost all damage, but that's via your regen phase instead. You'll still leech effectively, but not in that sense. The final downside is that it does require that Legacy Soulstrike Quiver for it to really shine, and it's a little expensive. It's not the end of the world, but if you're new to the game and you don't have a lot of currency, you won't be able to start with this now. Now, as for the strengths of this build, what it does good, first of all, it is incredibly tanky. It can deal with, as I said, Uber IZARO in all of the phases. I can face tank Shapers, regular hits without having any issues. I will keep regenning through them. You can, in many cases, take a Slame from the Shaper too. Sometimes you will die, but for the most part you'll be able to survive those. You don't have to worry about traps unless you are just really incompetent in the lab. You will not die to traps. There's so much damage mitigation, especially if you use the specific Uberlab setup that I'll be showing you with the Darkscorn. And then finally, it is a pretty easy build to level, and you can start using Blade Vortex already from level 12. And before you swap to the Legacy Soulstrike Quiver, you can use a very budget-friendly setup until you've saved up enough for that. And I should probably mention that so far I have killed Shaper 4 times with this build. One time it was deathless, the other times not so deathless, but still he went down all of the times that I tried it. I've also killed all the Guardians, even the poison immune ones. They are a little harder to deal with, but it's no problem once you get the setup up and running. So let's take a look at what makes this character really work. It is the combination of the Soulstrike Quiver that I'll be talking about in a bit, but it is that together with the Wicked Ward, notable here in the occultist tree. Energy shield recharge is not interrupted by damage if recharge began recently. So with the Soulstrike Quiver, it will make it so that we start our energy shield recharge much faster. Once the energy shields start to recharge, it won't be interrupted. That's what you can see in the gameplay here, why Argus, for instance, can't kill us as we recharge and regen it so fast. It's also the reason why Shaper can't do it with his regular attacks. Besides Wicked Ward, we are using it with Profane Bloom. That's what gives those purple explosions. It helps with the clear speed. It also gives a bit more damage for cursed enemies. We get Malediction for an extra curse, leaving us with more skill points so we don't have to spec into Whispers of Doom. And finally, we also get Void Beacon, which gives the enemies minus chaos resist, leaving us with higher damage output. But let's take a look at the gear, and let's start with the Soul Strike here. The important thing on the Soul Strike is the 150% faster start of energy shield recharge. That is what allows our energy shield to recharge that fast, that together with the Essence Surge cluster up here. I did try putting on a couple of Leo rings with 40 in total faster. It wasn't worth it. Not what you can otherwise get on your rings. So don't bother doing that unless you just want to really push it for the fun of it. Then as a weapon, I am using this 6-link bow here. And it has +1 to level of socketed gems that gives us a lot more damage. Blade Vortex gains a ton of damage per level. And it even gains increased radius too. So if you can get it to level 21 or 22 as I have in this case, it has a very, very large base radius. What you're seeing in the gameplay here is for the most part with concentrated effects. And then to get even more damage, we're using a Delirium essence on this so that we get the decay effect. Your hits inflict decay, dealing 750 chaos damage per second for 10 seconds. This adds a ton of chaos damage, making your poison so much more powerful. Now for my purpose, I crafted this bow, and my method of going about this was buy a white 6-link bow, make sure it's above item level 50. It doesn't cost much. I paid 15 chaos and there were plenty other 6-link bows at that point in time for that same price. What you then do is that you add Essence of Delirium onto this. That's the one that gives you the decay effect. And when you do that, you're hoping to get at least 1 free prefix and 1 free suffix after having done it. You then find someone who has a Katarina level 8, and she crafts the cannot roll attack mods onto the bow. Once she has done that, you take an Exalted Orb and you slam that onto the bow. This will give you a guaranteed +1 to level of socketed gems. So it's a little expensive to do. The Katarina mod itself costs 1 Exalt 2, but it is very, very powerful. Before you do that, if you don't want to invest the currency, you can simply just get one of these 6-link bows and put on an Essence of Delirium. You don't have to craft the +1, but it is very, very nice, especially if you want to go up against constants such as the Shaper. Now the other setup is the Dark Scorn plus Soul Strike Quiver setup. The thing that makes Dark Scorn really, really interesting is the 25% of physical damage taken as chaos damage. And normally that's pretty unpleasant because chaos damage is hard to mitigate for almost any type of build. However, we are playing this build as Chaos Inoculation or CI, and CI makes us immune to chaos damage, effectively giving us 25% of physical damage taken, well, nullified in this case. And this is what makes you so incredibly tanky when using it with Dark Scorn. It also works for the instant damage dealing traps in the Labyrinth, for instance. Besides that, Dark Scorn is just incredibly cheap. It costs 1 chaos, 2 chaos or something like that. And I honestly recommend using a Dark Scorn if you just use this build for Overlap farming. Don't try to get yourself a Decay Weapon. It isn't necessary. As long as you have a Blade Vortex that is above level 19, you will have more than enough damage in the Overlap. And the defenses are just so much nicer and it saves you a lot of currency. But if you want to deal with that Shaper stuff, I would recommend getting that Delirium weapon. I don't know if you can do it with Dark Scorn. I don't think you'll have enough damage. As for my other gear, I've added in a Bated Breath belt. And the main reasoning for this belt is that with Soul Strike you get 40% reduced energy shield recharge rate. This basically means that your energy shield, like the speed of how fast it regens, not how fast it starts, but how fast it actually regens, that is reduced here. With Bated Breath, we circumvent that, we deal with that with 50% increased energy shield recharge rates. We also get 20% increased maximum energy shield. That's pretty efficient. That's more than 3 regular energy shield nodes. And we get the 10% increased damage, which double dips with our poison too. Then I'm using a Witchfire Brew for vulnerability, curse, and the Step Knight effect of it. This is very powerful against IZARO. I'm using a Serious Promise for leech and a nice damage boost. Then a Basalt Flask, of course, from damage mitigation. And then a Kiara's Determination, and that's the last unique I'm using for this build. If I were to do this again, and if I were to do more mapping, I think I would use an Eye of Keula amulet to help with stuns instead of Kiara's Determination. This would open up a flask where you could use Vingtars, or you could use the other Step Knight flask, the Unholy Might one, since Rebirth. But it of course also means that you would have to balance a bit more with attributes and resistances on your gear. However, for just Shaper farming and Uberlap farming, the Kiara's Determination is very nice, but it also costs 40-50 KS. For the rare gear, it is important you try to get as much energy shield as you possibly can, especially on your chest and on your helmet. These are the two that can give you the most per item socket. Obviously, you need to try and get it on your boots and gloves too, but these are the two most important ones. And other than that, try to get lots of elemental resistances so you can be Captain Merciless, and then strength and dexterity so you can level up your skill gems. One thing to note here is that your Warlord's Mark has a pretty high strength requirement, and it isn't that important that you level it up way too high. So if that's the only thing that prevents you from or forces you to invest more into strength, then just don't level it higher than you can. As for the skill gem setup, I am using Blade Vortex, Poison, Void Manipulation, Spell Echo, Controlled Destruction, and Increased Area of Effect. And then when fighting bosses, you simply add in Concentrated Effect instead. To increase the damage, we are also using Wither on a spell totem linked with increased duration and faster casting. This makes it so that the monsters take more chaos damage, increasing, well, your damage dealt to them and the poison effects. And it also slows them down, making them easier to deal with. Then I'm running Blasphemy, Warlord's Mark, as I mentioned before. That's the one with the high strength requirements. Discipline for more energy shield, and then Arctic Armor. Arctic Armor is really, really nice in Uberlap because it doesn't suffer from the less curse effectiveness on bosses, since it's not a curse. So it's really powerful against IZARO. He will be slowed by quite a lot when he hits you. And the same goes for Argus. I also have a cast when damage taking set up with Immortal Call, increased duration, and then Phase Run. Phase Run, it depends on the colors you're gonna get in this setup. I've got 3 red, 1 green on this energy shield piece, so that was a little random. But you can use Fire Golem if you get 3 reds, that would be the best. Or you can use Vortex if you get a blue to help chill and slow your monsters. However, it is important that you use the cast when damage taking Immortal Call setup. Once you get your increased duration high enough level, I think it was around level 18, and I had the potency of Well Cluster and the entropy, my cast when damage taking, when it procs, it gives me 2 seconds of physical damage invulnerability. That is so fast that my energy shield in that time will start to recharge. So that makes the recharge start even more reliable. And it's definitely a setup you should get into your build. Finally, I'm using Flame Dash linked with faster casting, faster attacks, and Blink Arrow. So I have 2 movement skills. This is nice when moving around. It's good in the labyrinth. You just have to get used to it. And then I have 1 socket here for vulnerability when I want to have a self-cast vulnerability effect if I don't use my Witchfire Brew, or if I just want an effect that is longer lasting, or if I'm running out of flash charges. For instance, against the Shaper, it's nice to be able to cast it then. When I'm going up against Uber IZARO, if he is really, really dangerous that day, I will swap in an Enfeeble if he has the elemental buffs instead of the vulnerability. And you can do that because you can cast 2 curses. The way we scale the damage is via area damage, physical damage, and chaos damage. And then we have 1 damage over time effect here, but that's mostly because of the skill effect duration too. Then indirectly we also scale it by cast speed, and I suggest getting this cluster or getting some jewels, at least with a bit of cast speed. Otherwise it feels a little sluggish, and it also gives movement speed here. This is nice. And then of course the potency of Will down here. This leaves the Blade Vortex up for longer. It means there will be more stacks typically hitting the monster, and that will deal more damage. I also have a few aura nodes. This is what allows me to comfortably run Arctic Armor, Blasphemy setup, and Discipline. Besides that, I am picking up Shaper here for mana regen, and Deep Thoughts, again for mana regen and a bit of energy shield that it gives. And you will have to accept the fact that you cannot just endlessly cast this. You can cast it a couple of times and then you run out of mana, but as soon as you hit a monster, you'll be able to leech it back and can cast it endlessly. But you can't pre-cast it all the way up, but I haven't had any issues with it. And if you don't have the mana regen from Shaper and Deep Thoughts, then it feels kind of nasty. Then it is of course an energy shield based build. We have a lot of energy shield nodes in the skill tree. And finally, it is CI as we talked about, Ghost Reaver so that our life leech applies to our energy shield, and Volpact so that it is applied instantly, making it safer for us. And that's the build, guys. I am very, very happy with how this turned out. I wasn't sure it would have the damage in the beginning for killing something like Shaper, but once you get that Delirium Bow up and running, especially if you get that +1, the damage is just really, really good on it. And the defense, it's gonna be so hard for me to try and play other builds where I can't rely on that 6 regen. This has been incredibly fun to try and make, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. There are build details, leveling trees, etc. in the description of the video. Subscribe for more Path of Exile content. Thank you for watching, and bros, do you even nerd?